Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Okay, today I have the beautiful Michelle Mitchell. She is an Aussie like me. She's a speaker and an author specializing in the often turbulent kind of tween and teen years. So I was so excited to have her on because my two kids are 7 and 10. So my 10-year-old is like directly in the firing line of that tween space, and then obviously so are we as parents. So I was like sucking up all the advice and the wisdom from Michelle and I gave her some really cool questions to kind of respond to, because I know there are so many of us who are either leading up to this time or we're actually in the thick of having tweens and teens. So I think you guys are going to love this episode. She is the author of the very recently published amazing book called Tweens, What Kids Need Now Before the Teenage Years. So if you're like me and you have kids who are kind of coming into those years, let's be prepared as possible. I don't think no one really wants to go in with like blinders on and just thinking, well, you know what, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I think especially in this age of like social media and online, all that online crazy stuff, I think we need to be prepared. And so like I said, I think you guys will love this. We dived in to really kind of the, I think, crucial and yet often missing piece of self-esteem in our pre-teens. So that was massive. I loved our conversation about that. I think it's so important. We also actually explored some really practical ways to kind of navigate the shifts and the challenges of this age, and actually how a really simple self-care kit, which was gold, like I was writing notes, can make a massive difference. And also we actually touched on the powerful impact that dads have during this time. So this was really awesome. I think whether or not you're a parent of tweens or not, or if you're kind of looking ahead to the teenage years, then you are going to love this episode because it's really packed with insights into how you can help empower and support your kids. So if this is the first episode that you have caught on the Emotionally Intelligent Parenting Podcast, welcome. I'm so excited that you are here. I hope you love this stuff as much as me. And if you've listened to other parenting podcasts before, that is freaking awesome, because, you know, in this day and age, I think we need all the support we can get. I was just talking to my mum. This was a couple of months ago, actually, but the conversation stuck in my mind. And she said, I genuinely believe that you guys, because I have a brother and a sister, you guys have it way harder than we ever did, like in the 80s, raising you kids. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen. Thank you. It's just so challenging right now. Everything is so busy and there's so many like things from different angles being thrown at us. And then, yeah, just the whole internet thing. Like we didn't have to go through that. So that sucks. We're like in, I think, one of the really hardest stages. Anyway, so we are not perfect as parents. However, I am excited to say, and I'm really proud, I should say, that we have such a nice home here with our two kids. It's a really nice place to be. Yes, we still have big emotions and we have disagreements and things like that, but whoa, like they would have lasted half an hour, like the rest of the day would have been, out the window because we'd all be angry and cranky and it would be ruined. Now it might be 5 minutes or 15 minutes or like half an hour and that's it, right? We know how to move through emotions. We know how to honor and value them and learn from them, and we can problem solve and we use compassion. It's just such a game changer having emotional intelligence in your home, I promise you. So I'm really glad you're here. Just before we begin, I do want to acknowledge the Darug Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work and record this podcast. I really want to pay my respects to those First Nations people, their elders and ancestors, and I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and I stand in solidarity towards a shared future. Hey Michelle, how are you?
I'm fantastic, and better for seeing your smile. This has been fun off camera and air, even before we've got on. This is great.
Oh, we had a great conversation, and then I thought, you know what, we better wrap this up because we've got to get recording.
That's right.
But I was hearing all about your travel, your most recent travels, because I know you travel a lot for your work. Maybe just tell us before we jump in a bit about just where you were and the kind of people you met and what you were speaking about, because I think it was fascinating.
Yeah, we went to, I went to Broome and Kununurra, and they're sort of remote regional parts of Australia for anyone listening. Complex, beautiful parts of the world, meet fascinating people, and delicious food. But the cost of living is high in these places, and housing is very hard to find. And crime, drugs, domestic violence is high as well. So it's a really complicated part of the world, but it's the most beautiful part of the world as well. So, yeah, it's been a glorious week, Stephanie. Just glorious. Just walking beside people for a week in such a different place than I normally live. It just does your soul good. It just reminds you that life is different for other people. And, city life, when you live in the city, you think everyone lives like city people live, and they don't. Services are hard to find out there.
Yeah, yeah. Totally different way of being and things like that. You're down in Victoria, is that right?
I'm actually in Queensland, so
Oh,
I
you're
live
in
in Brisbane,
Queensland.
which is a small city. You can hardly call Brisbane a big city, can you?
What? I've been to
It's more like a
Brisbane.
coast. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love it. So I have been up to Queensland. I've been down to Melbourne. Um, actually, and Adelaide. So I've been to South Australia, but that's it. So I haven't been across to the west. That's on my bucket list. I was saying to you before.
Yeah, WA is beautiful. I'm just falling in love with it. It is beautiful.
Yeah, and you get the sunset across the ocean rather than, yeah, that's right, isn't it? Because rather than like the sunrise over the ocean, which is what we get on the east here anyway.
Yeah, that's right. And the water is glorious over there. So it's
Oh,
glorious. Yeah.
oh, so good. Okay, so what was some of we talked a bit, as you were saying, off air before, and you were able to have some great conversations because it was a more intimate kind of setting. So what were some of the things that parents there, I just think they're universal struggles, even though we all have, like you said, we live in different places and spaces and things. Did you have any moments with parents where they asked a question or they said, we're struggling with this, and you were like, oh, let's get into that?
Yeah, I think parents know what they don't want, but they're really struggling to find out how to be in their kids' lives what they do want. And I think they're trying to make really big leaps and jumps, and they don't have any necessarily any blueprint on how to be and do that in their kids' lives because they're going, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. And I think there's this fear that their children are going to feel like they felt about their parents. It's like, I just want to do anything so my kids don't feel like I feel about my mum. It's like I want to avoid that scenario.
Yeah.
So they're in that transition between, copying off their parents and going into a different space, but not quite knowing where to shift or how to shift that. And I think everyone's just experimenting a little bit, and I'm hearing that a lot with families.
Yeah. And do you think because we now have such access to people who are speaking about parenting and child development and psychology and all of the research online on social media, now it's so much more in the forefront for everyone. Like, am I doing this right? And I don't want to, there are different ways I can be and do things. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like, there's so much positivity to that. We're in those spaces, but also it can be overwhelming for parents, right?
That's what I said to this mom. I said it sounded like it was very flooding for her. It was like they had this group chat set up with her and her friends, and they were sending each other a lot of podcasts and having a lot of discussion. And it's so admirable, but sometimes it's motivated by quite a lot of fear as well. And that fear is, I don't want my kids to feel like I felt about my mum. And I want to have a better relationship with my kids, but it's driven by this, gosh, I just don't want to go there, but I don't know where I do want to go. And so, we're just fumbling around with it. And it is hard for parents. And when we're coming out of this flooded state, instead of this very centered state, it's hard. So I say to parents, just choose one, two, or three things. Just get really clear on where you do want to put your focus, because when you're juggling like 100 different things to try and change and be, you're likely never to get any right. So I just say, just pick one thing and just nail that, like nail it well. And know that your 20-year-olds are probably going to still sit around the kitchen table and blame you for everything that went wrong in their lives at some point in their lives. That's the evolution of it all.
Yeah.
And when none of us are going to escape that, that's part of the journey as our kids differentiate.
Yeah. You know what? I used to think, I was like, I think I'm doing okay. Like, I'm reading the research and I'm getting all the books and everything. Maybe they won't hate me when they're, teens or older. And I think, no, as good as we feel, or as much as we feel we're doing, I should say, there's still going to be moments where, we have to let our kids down. They have to hear no, or we're not going to do that, or we can't go there, and they're going to hate us, and they're going to remember those things. And there's always going to be some like, don't you remember you never let us do this? And, it's inescapable, like you say.
And it's not even like I'd hate to think I don't think my kids hate me, but I mean, there's always those rub moments in relationships, isn't there? I think it's Dr. Vanessa Lapointe that refers to that quote that says, our children's greatest wounds will always come from our hands. And I think that is just so true. With tight, close relationships, we can't help but wound each other. But it's actually those moments in our kids' life that help them differentiate and make the choices they need to make to be their own person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's perhaps what we're doing with our parenting, is saying that, hey, our parents did our best and they loved us the best way they could, but because of our experiences, we're making the decisions that we need to make. And I do think there's an element of this. We're trying to change fast enough to keep up with the pace of the changes in society. And I don't think it's just we don't want to be like our parents. I think we're changing by necessity and default because society is changing so much. Yeah. So we're having to scrapple, I think, to keep up with the pace of society and what our kids are actually going through at a younger age.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that. I had a conversation with my mum, was probably a few months ago now, and she's just in her 70s, and she said to me and my sister at the time, she said, I genuinely believe you girls have it so much harder than we did in the 80s, like raising you kids. And we have my brother as well. And she had 3 under 3 for a period of time. And I'm like, oh my God, how did you? And they emigrated from the UK and they had no friends. And it was, really challenging for her. And yet looking at my nieces and nephews and my kids, she really validated that this is a really hard time to parent, I think.
Well, yes, and we're trying to transform ourselves at the same time as keep up with a high-paced changing society. And I just remind parents all the time, your kids don't have this score chart that you have. Your kids are not scoring it that way. In fact, all they want from you is that you show up and are prepared to grow from that point. Don't we want that from human beings in our world? That they're prepared to show up humbly and say, hey, I'm just doing my best and I'm growing. And when parents actually say to kids, hey, this is my first rodeo as well. I've never had a teenager, or I've never had a 10-year-old, and I'm just doing my best here and we're all growing and learning together. I think that's the best way to approach parenting sometimes, because kids have got a whole lot of grace when someone's not power over them and trying to make out like they know everything. They're actually going, oh, well, thanks for showing up, Mum. And I've met a whole lot of kids in my career whose parents haven't put food on the table, who haven't shown up. And I wish I could take parents with me and say, look, if you walked a mile in that kid's shoes, you wouldn't be so hard on yourself. When your child turns around and says, I hate you for not buying me the 100th dress that your kid's going to dump on the floor. And you say to yourself, well, maybe I am a bad mum because, their friends got that dress or their friends allowed to do that. And I go, no, you haven't walked where I've walked. You haven't seen parents who don't even consider buying the dress and don't even consider their kids' feelings and don't even consider saying yes. I think sometimes we've got the wrong score sheet. We're actually measuring ourselves by the wrong measuring stick. And I think we measure ourselves against each other with parenting. We measure ourselves against our kids' maybe emotional expectations at the time, but we don't realize that really deep need inside of kids' lives is that we just were emotionally there, that we showed up and we gave it our all. And we actually really cared about being in the moment with them, and we did our best. And I think really, even when we reflect on our childhood, if we've got parents that did their best and were prepared to repair when they stuffed up and own their crap, what more can we want?
Okay. So a question this is what I hear a lot. But if I apologize to my kids and I take that accountability and I say I shouldn't have yelled, or, when you did that thing, isn't that losing my authority as a parent? Isn't that making me the weak parent? And then they think, and they walk all over me. So can you please give us your insights into that kind of belief, and then kind of reframe it for us?
I feel like it's gaining it. It's gaining it. It's owning your authority. It's owning who you are in your life, because you are then the model and the blueprint for who you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
I say every family needs a good old fridge magnet, and one of the fridge magnets that I suggest that every family needs is the three things that make family really work well, and one is we repair what we broke. And I remember being in my kitchen, actually having lost the plot about my kids dumping things on the floor. And my Mediterranean blood can run hot sometimes, Steph. So, I had lost it, and I live with three blokes. I've got two boys and my dear husband. And if there's anyone going to lose it in our home, it's me.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. I'm the emotional one in our home.
Is he Aussie? Is he
as Aussie as you come, mate? Like, and I say it like that on purpose. Like, he's a stable table, my man, and I'm the one. I'm the one who loops.
That's so good.
But I remember losing it, and I remember my oldest boy, who's now 25, walking up to me, putting his arm around me, and going, "Mum, don't you worry. You might not be good at that, but you're good at plenty of other things." And in that beautiful moment, my boy was looking at me saying, "I love you for who you are, warts and all. I love you for, your ups and your downs. I wouldn't trade you for anything." And I was looking at him as a now growing, mature adult going, "And I love you too, mate." Because by the time they get to 25, you've seen them in some messy moments. But let's face it, our kids have seen us without our lipstick on as well. So we've now got two human beings. We don't have any fake. We've got two human beings who are sitting in the authenticity of what it means to be two adults who are messy, who who come to each other with imperfections, and we now can look at each other, which I love, and say, "I love you for who you are." And when parents say, I don't want to apologize because I don't want to give my power away, okay, what kind of relationship do you want with your kids? Do you want one based on perfection, or do you want one based on authenticity? Because if you've got one based on authenticity, it's going to last the rockiest of the years that lie ahead.
Yeah. You know what I heard a while ago, probably a couple of years ago, and it stuck with me. It was from, I don't think it was Sarah Rosensweet, who's a peaceful parenting coach in the US, and I don't think it was hers. She probably heard it from someone else. You're a parent for more years as with an adult child than when your child was young. So you might be a parent for sort of, 18 years, we call it here. But then, like, I'm still a child to my mom and dad. They're still parents to me. They're in their 70s. And I'm trying to think, how many years, how many more might we have? And to your point, being authentic and being honest and raw and owning your mistakes and not being perfect, like, that's who I want to surround myself with now that I'm an adult. I don't want to have that power over, oh no, I've got to keep my position above my child. Like, that's not going to fly when they hit the tween teen, there's this, we were talking again a bit before about the tween years, and did you use the word differentiation? What's that the word?
I did.
Yeah. Maybe let's dive in there, because that's what your book is about, tweens. Why did you write a book about tweens, and why do you love, do you love the tween and the teen years? Is that like where you love to sink your teeth in?
Yeah, I do. And first of all, damn, that's good, Steph. That is so good. We do spend more years in relationship with our kids as adults. That is like a light bulb moment, right?
That's what I was trying to say. I don't think
so powerful. That's really powerful, because everything we do with our kids as children really sets us up for this lifelong relationship that we have with our kids. And I want to be like an approachable, humble, respectful relationship for them to be able to approach. Okay, so our kids differentiate. In other words, we want them to become their own person. They're not like me. That's the last thing you want to say to a teenager. Gee, you're a
Yeah.
lot like me. When I was a kid, they'll roll their eyes and go, I don't want to be like that. I want to be my own person. And we want to make sure that everything that we're encouraging when they start to hit that 10, 11, 12, is that we're really letting go and helping them be their own person and encouraging them to be their own person, as different as it might feel or be than us, even at times, different ideas, different thoughts, different dreams. The hardest thing that I've ever heard from one of my sons is that he wants to live in the country, because I'm not going to live in the country anytime soon. That's just not the way I'm wired. I'd like him to live right next door. But I had to pause, and I went, what a fantastic idea. I love that for you. Tell me more about that idea. And, we have to deliberately just loosen those strings and let go and let our kids be themselves and
Yeah.
champion everything. It just champion all. And like, some of it will fall, some of it will take hold. And we want our kids to find their own voice and their own desires.
That's really hard, I think, because I was telling you a little bit before, my son is 10, my daughter's 7, so we still have time. I don't want to say we still have time with her, but my son is definitely starting to make his own big, bold choices. And oh my goodness, the conversations we have blow my mind. And I just can see he's really at that beautiful, like, this is a turning point for us. He's changing, and he's becoming different. And so I love that you use the word championing who they are and their choices and what they're about. What is your advice for when they say, I want to do this, like moving to the country, or I don't know, I want to drop out of school as soon as I can and get a trade, or do something that you think that wasn't in our plan, or no, that's going to be, some kind of bad decision, or you cringe. Like, how do we then respond when our tweens or teens sort of do that, like diverge?
Well, it depends on the age, and not everything they say is going to stick over time. And I think that's the thing. A lot of what kids say, we needn't react, because
Like
then
when
we're
they want to
actually
become a
gonna,
YouTuber.
yeah, like, it's okay, parents. Like, just give it a minute. Like, they will want something else that's completely different next week and the week after. And the less we react, the better. Because I think sometimes the more we go no, the more they go, yeah, I do. So, like, let's just let them have their moment. So I think, let me give this example. One mum whose daughter had been a ballet dancer until she was about 13, 14, and their parents had invested so much money in ballet. Their daughter announced that she didn't want to do ballet anymore, and her mum had rung me and said, Michelle, we have put so much money into ballet. This girl is really good, and she could do something with dance. And I said to her mum, could she really, or is that just your dream? And her mum laughed at me, actually, and she said, well, look, she really worked at it. She could. And we had this laugh. And I said, okay, so if she really worked at it, she could, but she's telling you she doesn't really want to work at it and she wants to quit ballet. What does she want to do? And her mum said she wants to play rugby. And she said, that couldn't be the furthest thing from what I'm happy with. And I said to her, okay, I said, take those ballet shoes and hang them in the hallway. And every time you walk past the hallway, I want you to wave to those ballet shoes and say, goodbye, ballet, goodbye, ballet. Because sometimes we've invested so much into the dream. We're so emotionally invested that we take time to let it go. And our kids have already let it go. So we've got this tension. But we have to be prepared to let things go, because our kids are on the move and we've got to move with them.
Okay, the letting go. I really like that. So let's talk a little bit more into the self-esteem space now. This is something that we discussed before hitting record, and we both felt, oh, this is something that is coming up a lot that I think a lot of kids are struggling with. And I think parents really, it's so on our heart that we want our kids to be happy and healthy and have good self-esteem. So maybe let's dive us into the topic of self-esteem and kids.
I think what's hard is our kids are just marinated in this culture that says if I get lots of likes, if I have got, lots of followers, if I look good online, or if I've got a lot of status at school and I'm popular, yeah, or if I look pretty, or if I've got that kind of certain vibe, then I'm going to feel happy and I'm going to feel good about myself. And I think the problem with that is we've got a lot of 20-year-olds in psychology clinics around our country just unpacking that narrative because they've gotten out of school. And even though they've got profiles that are booming, even though they've got Botox in their face and they're looking hot, they don't feel happy and fulfilled inside. And they've got this real gap between the story they've been sold and how they feel about themselves. And I think we're really working hard with our kids, making sure that their self-esteem is not based on something unrealistic, that they realize that feeling overinflated about yourself or feeling underinflated is not the way to good self-esteem. It's actually feeling realistic. And realistic self-esteem is going to fluctuate from day to day. How you feel about yourself is not some rigid, I've got to feel good about myself every day. It's actually going to fluctuate. And the messages our kids are getting on tech are not helping balance that. They're not helping our kids have this fluid approach to how they feel about themselves. I get worried about that with our kids because I think they really do think that they have to feel good all the time. And it's just not realistic that 13-year-olds feel good most of the time, let alone all of the time. It's too high a standard for them.
Yeah, yeah. Especially in those teen years, I think when we're finding ourselves and we don't really know who we are and we want to be this or that, but then our friends are this and they're all dressing in that, like that's a really confusing time. That's why I love emotional intelligence, because it's not this, let's manage all those unpleasant feelings or the negative emotions and be so that we can be happy all the time. It's saying, let's honor and accept and value even those really dark, tough ones, the guilt or the shame or the grief or whatever, so that we learn how to get through those. We learn from them and we listen to them because they're telling us a message. And then we can make changes if we need to, or set boundaries, or, listen to what we need in those moments and then process and release them and get through and move on. I think it's so deeply tied to resilience. And so I love that exactly what you're saying is really, connecting so well with that, because it's not realistic to want our kids to be happy all the time. And I think if we're there for them in those really tough moments when they get a really bad test on a score on a test, or they have a breakup, or to allow our kids to feel those, want to lie in bed the moment they get home from school and feel those feelings without trying to fix and solve. And I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it so does. And it's in those moments where they're feeling really crappy that they might be able to pull a good coping strategy and get a small win. That's when you feel good about yourself because you go, okay, I've got life. I feel competent. I've got a handle on this. And it's not something that they feel like they're overwhelmed and floundering with, but like I can actually slowly move through this. It's no magic bullet, but I've actually got a handle of this. And I like that. There's some really important work that needs to be done in the low moments of our kids' lives. And when they have a grasp on that and they're not afraid of that, I sat with a 13-year-old girl just yesterday and I said, you've got this. And it's okay if you don't have to shift this right now, but you've got this, and you can actually feel good about yourself and feel low at exactly the same time. I said, see that girl in the mirror? She's got this. And you've got to deeply know that. Now that's self-worth. And that's what real self-esteem is based on, is that feeling that you can feel dark and you can know that you've got it.
So if we worry about our kids, like my youngest is a girl, and I think, goodness, there are so many things out there. We don't have YouTube anymore since about December last year. We said, okay, we're not going to have YouTube at home because of all like just the huge, like they would click on a Minecraft thumbnail and it could be something totally different, or maybe it was Minecraft, but they were not doing Minecraft things. And so, but we understand, and we've talked to the kids about when you go to other kids' homes for play dates and stuff, they might have YouTube, and that's okay. We can't control that. And we're not expecting you to say, oh, I'm going to be in the other room until you're done. So, but the thing is, especially for my daughter, there's so many YouTube tutorials on makeup and nails and masks. Yeah. And she's 7. And then she came home and said, can we do a shopping spree? And then and I was like, oh my goodness, it's begun, And so if we want our kids to have, that's a long story, a roundabout way of me saying, if we want our kids to have self-worth, that deep knowing of I'm okay, I'm a good kid, and I'm worthy, in amongst all the social media and the online, like just the ecosystem that we're in, how do we do that? How do we ensure that as parents, or what can we at least do to know that we are supporting our kids' self-worth and self-esteem?
I firstly want to say, Steph, that's a beautiful share from you in the sense that pulling YouTube back, but also how you're handling it when they go to friends' houses. Because I think a lot of parents will be listening into that, because it
was rocky. It was rocky.
It's a very common dilemma. So you've just nailed something that a lot of parents are thinking through right there. So just want to, highlight that and honor that. I think when kids can ask themselves, how can I value myself and respect myself when I am not feeling great? It is the best thing for them to be able to learn how to do. Instead of, how do I punish myself, damage myself, be angry with myself because I'm not feeling good? And there's a real marked difference with that when we hit these crossroads with our feelings, where we go, I could either add fuel to the fire of this emotion, or I could stop here and go, what do I need right now? How can I value myself? How can I respect myself? How can I do that important work that my body's telling me I need to do right now? And I think even when kids are 7 and 9 and 10 and 12 and 14, they sit at these crossroads they're like little invitations that our emotions give us. And you're the expert at this. I mean, you do this. You're the emotional intelligence queen. This is what you do. But it's a beautiful thing to sit with a 10-year-old and go, you're feeling that. Yeah. Do you know, like, I felt that too. Good on you for noticing that. Tell me how that feels, because they're noticers at this age. I go, good on you for noticing, especially boys. And they put their shoulders back like, noticing? I'm a noticer? Yeah, you are. Good on you for noticing. Now tell me what else you're noticing. And where is it in your body? And how does that feel? And talk to me about that. Okay, now how can you really look after yourself right now? Because that's something that is your responsibility. Not your friends at school. They're at home doing their thing. It's not actually even your mum's, because she's cooking dinner right now. I want you to take responsibility to take care of this very precious body that you've got, and invite them in to do that. Wow. And I'm really love that. It's can be like a game, especially for like 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds. I make self-care kits. I talk them through that, and I really say to them, this is the hard work of being a human being, but you've got strengths, you've got weaknesses. And when you hit these roadblocks in life, I want you to love you. I want you to take care of your stuff.
Oh, that is so good. Okay, what's in a self-care kit?
Okay, whatever they want. Literally, like they want things that comfort them, that are going to soothe them. They want maybe the numbers of people that they can ring and phone, that if they need to reach out for help. They might have sensory toys in there. They might have photographs of beautiful memories. They might have journal pieces in there. They might even have constructive things, like if they're kids that like to build things or create things, like arty crafty things. But whatever is going to help them soothe, come down that ladder, Steph, and give them some time to care for themselves and spend some time in reflection and just gather themselves and value and nurture themselves. That's what's going to be in that self-care kit. A fluffy socks, bath bombs, if girls are into that type of thing. But mums out there, even dads, we need self-care kits too.
Okay, so my last question is, we didn't plan to talk about this, but I want your perspective on dads. What do you think dads can do? Because they're different to us mums. We're typically, not always, more sort of nurturing, and we can talk about emotions maybe a little bit more comfortably. What role do dads do? Or if there are some dads listening, they think, I want to help my kids, my son, my daughter, with their self-esteem, and maybe they're in that teen years. What can dads do? Have you got a couple of ideas for us?
100%. Dads are the bomb, honestly. And more dads are coming to parent nights. It's unbelievable. Since COVID, I don't know what's happened, dads, but you're coming out in your droves and I love you. But this is what I'm finding dads are able to do. I don't know. When dads speak, there's gravity about it because I think they say less words to start with. So
Yeah, they make other noises. At least my husband does.
when dads talk, it's like, oh, like this carries weight. But I'm finding too, they cut to the chase on things and they really find the heart and what's important about things. And so what I find with dads is they have a way of esteeming kids in a really beautiful way. And maybe, Steph, I can just tell a short story.
Yes.
A dad I was with a 16-year-old girl recently said something, I want to get the words exactly right, but he said something like this to her. She was worrying about what career she was going to go into, and she was talking through career options, and she was going to change her mind 15 times, and so she should. That's what 16-year-olds are meant to do. But he said to her, I cannot lose with you. No matter what choice you make, I can only win. And I thought, like us mums would go, so what do you think and what are you going to do and what do you want to? And he just said to her, whatever you choose, I can only win. And I just thought, you just boom.
Nailed it.
Just cut to the heart, man. And then he said this, he said, you are my equal. You are my equal. You are proof that I'm a better person for knowing you.
Who's this guy?
No. And he just elevated her and her decision. And he said to her, I can't lose with you. I'm a better person for knowing you. No matter what you do, we can't lose. And I just remember like hearing his tone and I thought, man, like for a man to esteem his daughter like that, she's going to go out and just want to conquer the world, man. I mean, she just can't think lowly of herself when her father is championing her like that.
Yeah.
And if there's dads listening, I probably want to say this, like when you're frustrated and angry with your kids too, your words carry just as much weight. So self-control becomes super important because when you open your mouth, your words land with a gravity in your home that your kids carry with you forever. So please frame your words carefully and realize that those words ring, like they resound in your kids' hearts, and they're like a weapon at times. They just hit the spot in a way that's powerful.
Yeah. Wow. The word that came to mind as you were talking, Michelle, was unconditional. I think, for that dad and for any mums or dads to just, no matter, it might be verbally, it might be non-verbal, but like to convey to your kids unconditionally, I love you and we're a team and we'll get through it. And you can't make a wrong choice. Like I've got you,
Yeah.
Oh, like what a relief. My shoulders just dropped. Like what a relief. If I felt that in my marriage, if I felt that as a child, like that's just it's almost like relationship 101, like just to let that other person know it's all good. Like I've got your back and we're here in this together. I think that's so beautiful.
And he was really saying like, you're no less or more important than me, kid. Like we're on equal playing ground here. And I was like, oh, you go, dad. Oh, you go, you.
Whoa. Okay. Do you have one last, because your book is about tweens. And guys, we're going to put obviously the links for Michelle for you to reach out, find out more about her, follow her work, and obviously the book. Is there something like one overarching message if parents can just, because we've covered so much, take away from this, what would that be?
I think it's such a big developmental time. And I think if parents are struggling with their kids and going, why are they floundering so much? I want parents to know that there's so much happening under the bonnet or invisible changes behind the scenes developmentally in kids' lives that we can probably not see or smell yet. Like with teenagers, it's so obvious, but some of that big emotional and social work is actually very biological driven, and it's happening in a big way. And so if parents are struggling and seeing their kids struggling, there's real changes happening. There's real reason for it, and that's covered in my book, so parents can understand the developmental process that's going on in their kids' lives.
Brilliant. Okay, so does your book cover, we talked about screen time, body image, yes.
Yeah. Boundaries, technology, and brain development as well. We cover some really well first studies that have just been released in the last, 5 years that have really changed the way we're seeing this age group as well, which is very exciting stuff for parents to get their hands on.
Yeah, wow. Okay, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're gorgeous, Steph. Thank you.
Hey everyone, it's Steph here. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Michelle and I had an absolute hoot recording it. We are so on the same wavelength. She is so open and authentic and honest and just genuine. Like, those words really come to mind when I think about her. I love watching her stuff on social media. All of her links and everything are going to be down below in either if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to find them in the YouTube description. If you are listening, it's going to be in the show notes somewhere, so you can go and find out more about her work and follow her. She's on Instagram and Facebook, and she has a website, like all the good places. And yeah, she's just a real beautiful breath of fresh air in this parenting space. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go and check out her links. I do want to mention there are a number of new courses on my brand new website, so please, if you love any of this kind of emotional intelligence and parenting stuff, go and check them out. All you need to do is go to stephaniepinto.com. You can go to the course section. You'll be able to find at least, we've uploaded, I'm pretty sure, 3 brand new courses. There's the Introduction to Raising Emotionally Intelligent Kids. There's one on EFT tapping, so overcoming our stress, some of our big emotions and challenging experiences and things like that. So being able to move through those emotions, productively, healthily, and things like that. I love the EFT tapping one. And then there's also the From Reactive to Responsive Parenting. So how we can kind of get past and overcome some of that yelly, shouty, snappy stress feeling that we have as parents. Stay safe and keep raising those emotionally intelligent kids, and just find joy in parenting with your family over the next week or so until I see you again.